I have great reservation this morning as I come to you because the passage that I have for you this morning is probably the most difficult passage I've ever preached in my life. The problem with going through a book of the Bible is that you have to, you can't ignore certain parts. And this part that we're going to be doing this morning, I wish that I could just leave it out. But unfortunately, I have to do it. When I was young and in school, I know you won't believe this, but I was quite a naughty fella. I was only in grade 1 when I stuck a snake in my teacher's book. And she opened up the book while she was marking. It was a play snake, it's all right. And she got such a fright and whatever. And anyway, grade 1, first term of school there, I was at the principal's office getting caned. My first caning in grade 1. Anyway, I loved life. I was one of those little boys that just loved life, full of fun and things like that. And I don't know, why did I tell you that story? I don't know. Anyway, the passage this morning before us is from Peter. We're going through the book of Peter, and we're doing all the verses. We're not skipping over any. So with joy, let's turn to 1 Peter chapter 3, and we're going to read together the first 6 verses. 1 Peter chapter 3. If you want to get that up on the screen, find the verses, that'd be great. 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 1 to 7. All right? Let's get into it. Oh, I remember why I told you that story. I got to class one day, and I hadn't even started, and the teacher called me up to the front, and he caned me. And I said, "What did I do wrong?" He says, "Nothing yet." You know, teachers those days still had a say. I got caned without having done anything. You know what I mean? Why am I saying that? I think I might get caned, and I haven't even preached the sermon yet. All right, turn with me to 1 Peter chapter 3. We're going to read verse 1. It says this: "Likewise, wives, submit to your husbands." You already know I'm not hiding to nothing here. "So that even if some of you do not obey the word, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives, when they see your respectful and pure conduct. Do not let your adorning be external, the braiding of hair and the putting on of gold jewelry or the clothing you wear, but let your adorning be the hidden person of the heart, with the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which in God's sight is very precious. For this is how the holy women who hoped in God used to adorn themselves, by submitting to their husbands. As Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, and you are her children. If you do good and do not fear anything that is frightening, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered." Amen. Let's pray. I need prayer. Lord, we thank you for your word this morning. I pray for your help. I also pray that people would understand my heart in all of this. God, give us wisdom. Help us to be open to learn from your word this morning. In Jesus' precious name. Amen. I don't know. The first thing you might have noticed is that there's 6 verses to women and 1 verse to men. Now, don't read too much into that, all right? In understanding Scripture as it is, and listen, let me just say this first of all, at the end of all of this, if you have any questions, my door is open, okay? Please come and chat to me about it. If you want to come to our Bible study Wednesday, 9:30 here at the church, come and hear some more. That way, there's a debate. This is not a debate. This is not a two-way kind of chat. It's a let me share with you something from God's word and you can digest it and then come back to me and have a chat. Why so many hindrances? Well, because you'll know that this is one of the most abused verses in the Bible. That men over the centuries have used this to abuse their wives and get their way. It's a strong passage, and I think we need to understand it. But in understanding, always getting down to the bottom of Scripture, the first thing that we got to do is understand what? The context. So let me give you the context. All right? As we were going through Peter, you remember Peter was trying to tell them that they are the royal priesthood, the holy nation, and he goes on to tell them that they need to live these wonderful lives where they are. That the greatest tool of evangelism is the way you live your life in your day-to-day things. So he talks about the workplace. He says, obey your bosses, work hard, serve Jesus. Great. He talks about all these places Peter goes through. We've been through those sermons. If you want to find them on the web, they're there under Bribey Baptist. He talks about all these places that where we're living, at home, at work, whatever, that we need to be living our lives holy and pleasing to God. We need to be living advertisements of people that love Jesus. We can't just hear the words. We can't just love the words. We got to live the words. You all know that. We can't just be muttering them. We got to live them. And he wants us to live distinct lives. He wants us to be people that are different. Okay? We are not of this world. We are different, unique people, royal priesthood, holy nation, people called by God to be different. All through the Old Testament, God was always telling them, I don't want you to be like everybody else. I want you to be unique and different. That doesn't mean weird, all right? It means different. We want you to be different. We want you to be people. In the New Testament, he comes, he says, I want you to be those who are peacemakers. I want you to be gentle, to be kind, to be compassionate, to have self-control. These are the qualities he wants us to have as his children. And he wants us to behave differently. Now listen, you've got to understand, in doing that, the Bible says in Romans that we need to be transformed by the way we think. Because the way we think is not the way God thinks. And God wants us to think and behave like him. All right? He tells us this. Now, of course, this goes down to the family, especially the husband and wife scenario, because that's the crux of society. You can do all the research you want. They say if you break a husband and wife's bond, you break everything. The family falls to pieces, whatever. I was speaking to a lady this week who is talking to a mother. The mother's separated from the father, and she talks bad about the father. The father talks bad about the mother. The kids talk; they don't want to talk to the father, and all. It's a schmozzle. It's an absolute mess. And the devil knows if you break the family unit, you break everything down. All right, so Peter is a man in touch with the realities of earth. He knows what's happening. He knows what's happening in lives. And because of that, he is telling people how they should live. Now, William Barclay who writes about marriage, tells us this, that in Peter's day, we have to understand how people behaved. Okay? Under Jewish law, women had no rights. All right? So Jewish men would pray, Lord, thank you that you never made me a Gentile, a woman, or a dog. That was their prayer. That's what they prayed. All right? So it was a man's world. And so under Jewish law, a woman was a thing. She was owned by her husband in exactly the same way as he owned sheep and cows. The Greeks, the duty of the woman was to remain indoors and be obedient to her husband. Roman law, a woman had no rights. In law, she remained forever a child property of her father. In Latin, patera potestas, the father's power. All right? That was the day that they were living in. This was the day that Peter was speaking into. The culture of Peter's day was world apart from our day. Worlds apart. They could hardly be more different as far as marriage and the place of a woman is concerned. When Peter commanded wives to be subject to their husband, this command came as no surprise. It wasn't a surprise. Submission was exactly what women were expected to do. The basic command to submission sounds strange in Western readers. But in this context, it was absolutely normal. For Jews, it was based on the stories of the creation and the fall, where women originally created to be a helper for the man is cursed by pain of childbirth and submission to rule under her husband. Genesis 3:16. In contrast, here comes the New Testament, the Christian gospel, that emphasized that there's a new generation, that there's neither Jew nor Greek nor male nor female. They are all equal in the eyes of the Lord. So consequently, these women now found a new freedom of how to live because of this new gospel that is preached to them about Jesus Christ. Now, before we all allow our emotional juices to flow this morning, let's hear what Peter says to us in these passages this morning. Now, let me give you the structure of the text. It's very easy for you to see. The first two verses, verses 1 and 2, really talk about how wives should submit. Number 2, verses 3 and 4 next talk about how a woman attitude should be about beauty. Verses 5 and 6 says, hey, listen, here's an example to follow. And then verse 7, that one little verse is just for the men, all right? Some men are smiling. Okay, I want to make 3 points this morning. And they're based on those 3 breaks down. The first is this, is the power of a submissive wife. Likewise, wives, be subject to your husbands, so that even if they do not obey the word, they may be won. Can you see the word likewise? Likewise, right at the beginning. Thus, Peter's instructions to believing wives is in the larger context of us called to Christians to honor God. So he says, likewise, because of what Jesus has done for you on the cross, this is the way you should behave. You should submit to your husband. Submit to your husband. Now, I've read through the... I need to just say this on the issue that notice it says it's specifically calling wives to be submissive to their own husbands and not to men in general. All right? Because I've seen this abused. And I've read through the Bible many times, and I know of no command anywhere in the Bible that says women are to be in submission to men totally. All right? Nor do I know of a command in Scripture that says that wives, plural, are to be in submission to husbands, plural. This is a command of submission to a particular husband. In other words, you submit to your husband. Okay? And I think that's important to understand. Now, I believe that it would be very wrong to ignore or reject this word of instruction from Scripture. In fact, I believe it would be almost an act of rebellion to God. But I also believe it would be just as wrong to stretch this passage far beyond the way some people do. Women are not in a class under men. In the household of faith, in our church, women are equal standing with men. And I believe that's exactly what the Bible says in Galatians, where it says there is neither Jew or Greek. Submission then does not mean inferiority. Submission means reverent obedience to God. And this passage is speaking of submission in one relationship only. The Bible talks about respecting each other and respecting men and respecting your elderly and all that. That's what the Bible speaks about. But in this passage, it's about one relationship, a husband and a wife. I think this passage really speaks, if you want a better word, about a beautiful conduct. And its implications not only for wives, it has implications for everything. Ray Stedman says that there are three important matters that Peter suggests about women's submission. And I want to go through those three with you quickly. The first is this, that that submission is necessary in order that a man might be a man. Okay? Let me give you an example. I was barbecuing with another man. Okay? So I had the barbecue there, I had the sausages and the steaks and everything, and I was busy, put it all on thing. This man politely took the tongs out of my hand to show me how I should be doing it. Okay? Well, I wasn't going to argue. If he really wants to barbecue, let him barbecue. All right? It's not the end of the world. If he wants to cook, let him cook. I found out that this is a common thing with him. And this is the way he deals with most of his life. And the way that he treats his wife as well. You see, the thing is this. If you want a man to be a man, you've got to let him be a man. You can't just take the tongs out from him every time he cooks. You can't take control from him all the time. That's what Ray Stedman says. He says, so that you can allow a man to be a man. Every married man knows that he is not the same man when he was single. Every married woman knows the same thing. And of course, there are different degrees of men. There are some men who lead easily well and his wife can relax. There are others that are timid and uncertain in their leadership. With that kind of wife, she's got to kind of hold back, But men are different. But just because they're different, it doesn't mean that a woman now needs to take control, Ray Stedman says. He says that you gotta be submissive in order to let a man be a man. Secondly, submission is necessary in order for a woman to be a woman. Okay? What does that mean? Essentially, it means this. I have, over the years in my church life, had women who have come to me and said to me, Pastor Ray, can my children spend a day with you? And I said, for what reason? Well, I'm a single mum and they need a male figure. Well, that's okay. Spend the day with me, because with her every day, they don't have that kind of male thing. I think it would be true to know that no woman is ever really content being in the role of a man. I've spoken to some women and they will say to me, Ray, I just want him to lead the house, but he doesn't. Okay? So in order for a woman to be a woman, she needs to be submissive to a man. And that will help a man be the way God has made him to be as a man. The third reason is this, that a wife should be submissive to her husband is to deal with that thorny issue on how is it done. How far shall I go in the submission? Well, a good question. How far should you submit? Well, the Bible says. We've just read it in the past passages. For what credit is this? Peter says in 2:20. If when you do wrong and you are beaten for it, you take it patiently. But if when you do right and suffer for it, you have God's approval. Why? Because this is God's desire. I don't submit to my husband because he's a nice guy. I submit to my husband for who? For Christ, for God. Why do I endure his bad behavior and all this kind of stuff? And let's be honest, husbands are not perfect. I am, but other husbands are not. You know? And therefore, submission has a beautiful way of allowing a man to be a man. Why do you do it? So that I can submit to God. God is the lead. As Paul said before us in Ephesians, husband, love your wives even as Christ loved the church. And so he says the same thing for women. Wives are submitted to their husbands as Christ submitted to the church. And you can see how it goes down. It goes like this. God up there, the man submits to God, the woman submits to the husband, and he's got to submit to God. Well, the question is, what happens if he's not submitting to God? Well, you just got to submit, because God's in control of everything. He says this. What does Peter mean in that expression there where he says, without a word? Well, I'm convinced that it does not mean this, that a woman must just keep quiet, that a woman must just shh and go to your room. It doesn't mean that. I'm absolutely convinced. I'm convinced it means that a woman shouldn't do some of these things. That a woman shouldn't be nagging, arguing, or trying to manipulate. I think that's what he's saying. It doesn't mean that there's great chatting together about issues. It doesn't mean that. It just means this, that there mustn't be those things. What does it say in Proverbs? A foolish son is destruction to his father, and the contentions of a wife are a constant dripping. Okay? Point number one, the power of submission. The power of it. Secondly, the glory of beauty. He goes on to say, do not let your adorning be external, the braiding of hair, the putting on of gold jewelry, the clothing you wear, but let your adorning be hidden in the person of the heart, with the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit. Now, these verses can be misunderstood, so I want to look at them just from some other versions. The Contemporary English Version says this: don't depend on things like fancy hairdos or gold jewelry or expensive clothes to make you look beautiful. Be beautiful in your heart by being gentle and quiet. This kind of beauty will last forever, and God considers it very special. I like the way it says it. Let me read you another one from the New Living. It says, don't be concerned about the outward beauty that depends on fancy hairstyles, expensive jewelry, and beautiful clothes. You should be known for the beauty that comes from within. The unfading beauty, I love that. The unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is so, so precious to God. I also like that version. Just beautiful words. Now, this is one of the most important passages for women in the Bible. For Peter puts his finger here on the greatest contribution that women make to humanity. You know what that is? Women make things beautiful. It doesn't matter where you go. At my last church, we had a committee. It was called the Beautification Committee. I love that, don't you? Have you ever heard of a beautification committee? Well, we had a beautification committee. And what they did was they went around through the whole church and tried to make things beautiful. So they did the reception nicely, and they gave it a beautiful woman's touch. They went into the men's toilets, for goodness sake. And the men walked in there and said, gee, aren't those toilets nice now, you know? They smell nice and got nice color and everything. The ladies spent a whole day in the men's toilets just beautifying it. Ladies, this is what the greatest gift women do. They make things beautiful. They make places beautiful. They make churches beautiful. They make workplaces beautiful. That is the gift that women bring to life. They make homes beautiful. They make everything beautiful. You go to that little room at the back there and just see what Talia did to that little kid's room. She made it beautiful. I couldn't do it, but she did it. Because that's the way that God created woman. That woman make beauty out of a mess. Just go to a bachelor pad and see a guy who's been by himself for many years, and he gets married, and this woman walks in there, and the whole place is just beautiful. Why? Because women bring beauty to the home. Every woman wants to be beautiful. Let's be honest. The billion-dollar cosmetic industry is testimony to that. Every woman needs to know that the beauty that the beauty she is expected to contribute to life must be at all levels, not just physically only. A woman is to be more than physically attractive. Her real power does not lie in her seductiveness or the clothes she wears, but it lies in her beautiful spirit. That's the greatest contribution that a woman makes. And looking at this world and all its emptiness and its glittering facade, hollow lives, you can see how it all takes place. And the challenge to our women and of our age today is to bring this beautiful. Here is a paragraph from Ashley Montague on the triumph and tragedy of the American woman. Listen to this article. It says this: women have great gifts to bring to the world, the qualities of love and compassion and of a beautiful spirit. It's the function of women to humanize, since women are the natural mothers of humanity. This is not a Christian lady, okay? Women are by nature endowed with the most important of all adaptive traits, the capacity to love and make things beautiful. And this is their principal function, to teach men. So the women teach men how to love and how to make things beautiful. They do. Once women know this, they will realize that no man can ever play as an important role in the life of humanity as a mentally healthy woman. And by mentally healthy, I mean the ability to love and the ability to serve and to work. Being a good wife and a good mother, in short, a good homemaker, is the most important of all occupations in the world. That's what she says. She's not a Christian. Listen to what she says. She says, it surely cannot be too often pointed out that the making of human beings is far more important than vacation than the making of anything else. That looking after kids and caring for kids is the most profound occupation, not building a car or building a house. And in the formative years of a child's life, the mother is best equipped to provide those firm foundations upon which one can subsequently build. This is from a lady in a magazine to the American woman of the world. I think it's applicable for all of us. The key word here is unfading. It compares things with things that last and things that don't. There is a kind of beauty that doesn't depend on youth and cosmetics or plastic surgery because it's not external. Do you know why there's so many cosmetic surgeons? Because you keep going back to them. One visit never finishes the job. And so the person goes back and back and back. They're never happy. Why do you think there's so many shops? Why do you think the clothes keep changing all the time? Because they're never satisfied with the way they look. Few magazines. Look at the articles. Be whatever you decide. It's beautiful. Amazing body makeovers. Try the winning plan. Her look says it all. Incredibly stylish, incredibly beautiful. Want younger skin in 14 days? Reduce lines nearly 50% in 2 weeks. If you want the magazine, I'll give it to you. I love this one. The article. All your beauty questions answered. Just like that. Expert tips and makeover tricks to get you to look your best. God gave us the inner desire for beauty, design, and order in nature. Friends, now let me say this, that the desire for outward beauty is neither wrong nor unnatural. Everything God creates has its own sort of beauty. In fact, the word adornment comes from the Greek word cosmos, which we get the word cosmetics. God gave us the inner desire for beauty, design, and order in nature. Who was it who brought creation to order? It was the Spirit of God, the cosmos. I'm simply pointing out that the world, nearly all of its emphasis is on outward beauty. The women of the world emphasize the outward because they are empty on the inside. And their dress is testimony to their bankrupt values. And that's why they place so much emphasis on their hair, their jewelry, their perfume, and their designer jeans. Their gentle and quiet spirit shines through so that their physical beauty diminishes and their inner beauty remains. What makes a Christian woman beautiful? He says it's that unfading beauty of a gentle, quiet spirit. The word here that is used is a very interesting word, a gentle, quiet spirit. Does that mean a woman must just keep quiet and not say anything? No. The word that used here is the same word that is used in the New Testament when Jesus says, "Blessed are they that are meek." You know where the word meek comes from? The word meek comes from when people are looking at a stallion. Now, do you ever look at a stallion and think that thing's meek? No. The word meek means power under control. You see, the reality is that women have a lot of power. They have the ability to change the face of humanity. They control what happens at the home. What happens in the home, I was listening to a message, and this guy named Bob Gelfar says that a woman really sets the tone of the home. If she's calm and serene, the home will be calm and serene. If she's angry, the home will be angry. She has the power, not the man, the woman. The woman has the power to bring about that in the home. Meekness is that. It's like the power is there, but you've got to use it in control. A stallion has so much power, it can pick up a person, throw them around, incredible power that a horse has. But power under God's control. My lips under God's control, my eyes under God's control, my ears, my attitudes, my responses, my relationship, that under God's control. That's what he means by quiet and gentle. Controlled attitudes, behaviors, words, things at home. What if things don't work out? What if we run out of money? What if my husband makes a bad decision? What if I lose my job? What if our children get sick? What if we can't find a place to live? My power under God's control. My power under control. Peter closes with this word of illustration, and he says, look at this woman named Sarah. Look at verse 5. It says this: "For this is how a holy woman who hoped in God used to adorn themselves by submitting to their husbands." That's how they did it. That's how they showed their beauty. As Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord. All right? Now, men, please don't go home telling your wives that Pastor Ray said you needed to start calling your husband Lord. All right? I never said that. What was taking place here was that Sarah was showing her submission to her husband. A church named their ladies group Daughters of Sarah. I thought it was quite interesting because Sarah doesn't get a great mention in the Bible. You've got to read it quite carefully. And you've got to do a bit of a study on Sarah to know that this woman was quite remarkable. She certainly deserves more fame than she's had. Sarah was strikingly beautiful. One of the most amazing things ever recorded about women was written about this woman. At the age of 65, she was taken by Pharaoh of Egypt for his harem. When Abraham, her husband, had foolishly jeopardized her safety by a lie saying that she was his sister. The amazing thing that this whole thing was repeated again under Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, when Sarah was, listen to this ladies, 90 years old. What an amazingly beautiful woman she must have been, that at 90 years old, Pharaoh wanted her. By a gentle and quiet spirit, she bound the heart of Abraham to herself so strongly that when she died at the age of 127, Abraham was simply inconsolable. He wept and mourned for Sarah for days. Now, the Bible doesn't suggest, as I said, that all women go around calling men Lord. What it does suggest is that there's great power in submission. Peter goes on from there in the last verse for the husbands to talk about them. The first thing he says, likewise. In other words, men, all the other 6 verses apply to you as well. They apply to you just as much as they apply to women. You also need to be controlled. You also need to be gentle, quiet, and respectful and submissive to your woman. There's a great book that's out there. It's called Love and Respect. And it talks about woman's greatest need. That a woman's greatest need is to be loved. Men really struggle with love. But that a man's greatest thing of need is to be respected, to be honored. And when a woman submits, a man loves. When a man loves, a woman submits. Now, I don't know if you noticed in all these verses, but not once is it a command. Not once does a man come and say, you must submit to me. This is a voluntary thing. It's absolutely and totally voluntary. Yesterday, I took some of the Canadians. We went down to the beach, to Wurrum, to have a swim. You know, took a surfboard along, teach the Canadians how to surf, you know what I mean? Because they only know snowboarding and ice hockey. We taught them how to catch a few waves. It was a little bit windy yesterday afternoon, you know, and on the beach there, the wind was coming off, so, you know, it was quite cool and things like that. After we went for a swim and playing in the waves and surfing and everything, they came out just having a wonderful time and saying, you know, I was cold, but I'm so warm now. This is beautiful. I feel so great. You know, I thought about that. And I think it's the same thing with submission. You see, submission is not something we want to do. But when we're in it, we find that it's so comfortable and so good. And so wonderful. Because the same way wives need to submit to husbands, we need to submit to our bosses, we need to submit to leaders in the church. It's the same thing. Yes, it might be cold when we first walk in, but once we start being obedient to Christ, we will find just how much better it is for everybody involved. Marriages turn out better. Churches turn out better. Work situations turn out better. As I said, my door is open for anybody who wants to discuss anything. Please understand my heart on this subject, because the world needs us. The world needs women because they bring beauty to this place. Let's pray together.